is set for a permanency review after final order, and the court will note that the department is present, represented by Ms. Marilyn Bradley, joined by Ms. Elizabeth Hanson with the Long. Ms. Sonia Sims is here as Marco's attorney and guardian ad litem. All right. So you said you just took on the case, Ms. Hanson, your unit?
I'm actually covering for Ms. Fetters, who's very familiar with the case. It's done, looks like amazing work on this. So I'm covering for her because she's on another hearing.
Okay. So, and Ms. Fetters was the caseworker previously, so she's been involved for a while now.
Yes.
So what do you have to report about Marco on her behalf?
So it sounds like he's doing well in placement. He did get into some trouble, evading arrest, skipping school, vaping marijuana. So he has been in some trouble. He had to go to alternative campus for 20 days due to that behavior. He has admitted that what he's doing is wrong. So at least he's acknowledging and is well aware that he's on the wrong track if he continued this way. So he is making some progress in that. The report from his placement is that he's doing well. He's well engaged in therapy. The goal is still unrelated adoption because the grandfather that he does have a relationship with doesn't feel like he can meet his needs. So
all right, so that was something we were exploring in terms of him you know, transitioning to that as a placement option, and that does not appear to be a viable path at this point.
correct.
All right, but is he still maintaining a relationship with him? Is that reported?
He does.
Okay.
He does maintain a relationship. He sees the grandfather on campus and off campus, and he really enjoys that contact. So they're making sure that that's happening for him, and that seems to be going really well.
So is this placement the best suited for him to meet his collective needs at this time, given, especially in light of the sort of behavioral hiccups we've been witnessing?
It seems to be, yes.
And is it within Ms. Fetter's records about plans for his future? He turns 18 in March, so we are in the final year of his time in care. Has there been a recent circle of support for him?
I don't have record of a recent circle of support, but I do know that he's involved with PAL. He does have a PAL worker assigned to him. So there is someone who's keeping track of where he's at in the process and making sure that that we're not missing any steps for him. The concurrent plan for him is going to be to age out and continue in care if necessary. Because he's still in school and is in special education classes and on probation now.
All right, well, let me ask Ms. Bradley, do you have questions for Ms. Hanson?
I didn't quite catch what she said. Ms. Hanson, did you, yes, Judge, did you say the plan is for him to age out and stay in care? I wasn't sure I heard that right.
I think they're discussing that with him, and they're letting him, that'll be discussed and decided at the circle of support, the next one that's scheduled for him.
I sort of recall that Marcos wanted to go to college. Did that change?
Nope, that has not changed. He's still sharing that.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Sims, any questions for Ms. Hanson?
No questions, thank you.
Do you have your own report? I'm sure you know about the latest with Marco. What can you share regarding?
I do. His last circle of,
him?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
His last circle of support was on March 4th of 2022, so we need to get another one scheduled, and I know that they are working on that. They were just waiting for things to kind of calm down because, yeah, he got himself in some trouble, and he's open about it. His grandfather is not happy about it. So Marco recognizes that, and he realizes that living with his grandfather is no longer an option. And so he has contacted a couple at the church that he attends regularly They say they're willing to go through the licensing process and would consider being an adoptive placement for Marco. So that seems to be something on his mind right now, that he would like to pursue that and see how it goes. He understands needing to comply with the terms of his probation. He's familiar with that process also, and is very remorseful for what happened. His placement reports that he is now doing much better. Since that incident, he seems to have had an attitude change, and he is set on completing the Harris County Juvenile System Second Chance program. So hopefully that keeps him on the straight and narrow.
Well, yes. Okay. Well, that's at least promising to hear. I have to say, this is like the 5th or 6th case in the last 2 weeks that has involved a THC vape pen. It seems to be like the way to get in trouble for just about every kid that is on my docket right now. And so it's not just Marco, it's literally everybody. And so I hope that it has been a wake-up call. You know, you start getting into involved with the criminal justice system when you're 17. It's a little bit different than being involved earlier on in your teenage years. So I hope that this is a wake-up call for him, and especially since it's sort of closed the door on our assessment of his grandfather as a potential placement option too. So, but I'm encouraged by the connections that he's making through church. That sounds like something that definitely needs to be explored and looked into. And the court at this time, based on the testimony that's been presented today, is going to continue Marco's placement, find that continuation of that placement is in his best interest, that all of his physical, emotional, and developmental and academic needs are being met there presently, that it's in his best interest to remain there, and that it's the least restrictive placement available to him given his special needs and individual circumstances and his recent behavioral and criminal issues. The court at this time is going to order the department through Belong to set up a circle of support that is needed to help him plan for his future. And the court is going to order Belong to assess the family that has indicated a potential interest in being licensed to be a placement for him as well. So to work with them and see what supports can be offered, and you know, to assess that as a permanency option for him. At this time, we are set for next permanency review after final order on September the 11th at 10. Is there anything I've missed or that I need to address in an order to help make sure Marco's needs continue to be met and planning for his future continues as well? No? All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Hanson. You did an admirable job stepping in at the last minute, and I appreciate it. And if there is nothing further, thank you all. With that, Ms. Bradley, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please tell us about the children in this case and how they're doing?
They're all good. They're very shy with me. They're starting to open up a lot more. I have talked to all of their teachers. They were having a little trouble at first at school, but they're doing a lot now. They're up to date on their medical. Their was not up to date. Grandmother missed the dental, is rescheduling that. But overall, they're doing very good. They attend school and they attend after-school daycare.
Okay. So they're all very young, right?
Yes.
Right. And 2 of them are twins. So with all these children being so young in the care of the grandmother, how is that going in placement? Is she able to manage them?
Yes, she's able to manage them.
Okay. And she does work, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Now, is she getting the children to the visits with the parents? Or who transports them?
She transports them on Saturday, and I transport them on Tuesdays. If I cannot transport them, then she will transport them on Tuesdays.
Okay, and are the parents making the visits?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Do we know how those visits are going?
Yes, they're going good. I know that they're both having a little trouble with them listening. I know Juan has had more success getting them just to listen and behave more than Miss does. But overall, they're doing good.
Are the parents doing any visits at Children Matter?
Yes, all visits are held at Children Matter.
And have we gotten reports back from Children Matter?
Yes, we have.
What is the consensus, or what is the feedback you're getting?
The feedback that I'm getting is the mom provides food and they all have a good time. There's been some instances where mom isn't disciplining them. They believe it's because they know that they're at Children Matter and mom can't do anything, so they act out more. Same with Juan as well. They are both, they're doing good. They bring food for the children. The children act out because they know they can't be disciplined at Children Matter.
Okay, so is there any feedback as far as anything else?
No.
Discipline? Okay. Do they indicate the children are bonding well or bonded with their parents?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how the parents are doing in services. How is Miss Garcia doing? Can you tell us what she's done or what she lacks, or both?
Yes, Miss Garcia she finished parenting classes. She's currently enrolled with the domestic violence for victims. She's almost done with that. I believe has 2 classes left. She's also engaging in random drug testing. She has 2 that are currently pending right now for results. And she's also engaging in individual therapy with Miss Chanda Esparza.
Now, she missed some of those visits with Miss Esparza, right?
Yes, that's correct.
How many?
It was 2 of them, but they have been rescheduled.
What was the reason? And are they virtual?
Yes, they are virtual. The reason, I don't believe I was given a reason. I think just overslept.
Okay. And you indicated there were some there were some drug tests pending. There was one from March, I think 6th, and then recently, right, in April?
Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Why do you not have the results back from March?
I'm not sure why the results haven't came back from March. I will call and find out.
Okay, what kind of test was that, please?
That was an alcohol test.
Okay, and that would be very important because the violence between the parents involved the use of alcohol, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Was a hair test done recently?
Yes, that one was done on the 6th, and that one is pending as well.
All right. Is Miss Garcia working?
Yes, she is working.
Where is she working? Do you know?
She is working at a gas station as a cashier.
Okay. And has she made any steps towards providing a safe, stable, and appropriate home for the children for the purposes of reunification? Do you know if she has accomplished that or taken steps?
Yes, she has taken steps. She's currently living with a family member. She has contacted Endeavors. Endeavors is going to help her get her own place. I believe she just needed 4 check stubs. That was the one thing that she was on. I believe she got that check stub last week, so she should be able to turn that in and get some help. Endeavors.
What is Endeavors exactly?
Endeavors, they help with housing finances. They help with a down payment on any rentals. They help with any rent, utility payments.
Okay, so is that like a limited one-time assistance, or is it ongoing?
I'm not sure. I know that they did not have that program and then they got it back. I'm not sure how long they help. This is the first time I've used them. So we'll see.
I'm sorry, we will see. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, we will see how it helps with Miss Garcia. And if she needs further assistance, I will provide more resources for her.
They will?
No, she
No,
said,
Is that what they-
I will.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm sorry, your audio keeps cutting out, at least on my end. Is there anything left for Miss Garcia to do other than work on the housing and finish these courses that you've just mentioned to us?
She needs to continue with the random drug testing.
Okay. And what about Mr. Garcia? I'm sorry, Mr. Casares.
Mr. Cáceres completed his parenting class with Padre y Padre on February 6th. He did provide a certificate of completion. Also completed his BIP classes. Speak to the teacher that provides the classes, and she will be sending me the certificate of completion. Once I get that, I'll provide that to all parties. He is currently engaging in individual therapy with Miss Ana Guzman. Those have switched to as needed by her. He's also in random drug testing, and an OCR was completed, but there was no recommendations made. He does have his own housing, and he is working currently at Tesla.
All right, is each parent in compliance or not?
Mr. Cáceres is in compliance, and Miss Garcia is in partial compliance.
All right. What about Mr. Cáceres's home situation? Are you familiar with? You said that he has obtained housing. Can you be more expansive or specific?
Yes, so he is currently renting a house right before San Antonio. I went and did a home walk through the house. It is child-proof. There's no issues with the home.
You've been to see it?
Yes, I have seen it.
And is it ready for children?
No, it's not ready for children yet.
All right. And what about Mr. Cáceres as far as his working schedule? I think you mentioned he is working, I believe, was it Tesla?
Yes, he's currently working nights at Tesla. He has put in for the day shift. He will start his day shift on April 16th of 2023.
All right. And is there any danger at this time if the children were to be reunified with either parent?
With Mr. Cáceres, the home is not ready for the return. With Miss Garcia, she hasn't completed all of her services, and there's still drug tests that are pending, so I can't say that they would be safe to go back home until I get those results.
Are there drug tests pending for Mr. Cáceres as well?
Yes, there is a hair pending as well.
All right. And the alcohol and alleged drug abuse were significant factors in the domestic violence between parents. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is the department planning on looking at any kind of reunification staffing for either or both parents?
Yes, we are looking at a reunification staffing with Mr. Cáceres.
And what will the department be trying to determine?
To determine if the children are returned to Mr. Cáceres.
And at this time, is it the department's position that it is safe to return the children to him at this time?
At this time, no, ma'am.
All right, and can you be more specific as to why not?
Yes, Mr. Cáceres is still working nights, so he will not be home taking care of the children. The home is furnished for the children. There are currently no groceries for the children, should they be.
All right, is there a reunification staffing necessary to determine whether the previous conditions which existed, such as domestic violence and alcohol abuse, will there be a staffing to determine whether the children can be safely returned?
Yes, ma'am.
And has that been done yet?
No.
And therefore, is it safe to return the children?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Pass the witness. I'm sorry. What is the permanency goal for the children?
The permanency goal is family reunification with the concurrent goal of adoption by.
All right. And the department is asking for the court to continue the placement with Ms. Barrazas at the present time. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And is that in the best interest of the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
All right, Ms. Fisher.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Ibarra, Ms. Garcia has done everything but 2 domestic violence classes in housing, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so why are you saying she's just partially compliant?
We have received videos of her stating that she is that she was high. So once I get the drug test results from that, then I'll be able to determine whether or not the children are safe to return.
Have you shared those videos with Ms. Pearsall?
No, I have not. I did give it to my attorney.
Okay. Do you know the date of those videos?
I can look it up, but I'm on my phone, so I might disconnect.
Okay. I'm just asking, I'm not asking what the date was. I'm asking if you know the date that they were taken.
No, not off the top of my head, no, ma'am.
But they're dated?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Okay. So that's the only grounds. That's the reason you're saying she's partially compliant?
Well, I have received more videos of her at the bar.
Okay. If reunification with the father happens, what is the department's position regarding Ms. Garcia's rights?
All visits will remain the same.
No, I'm not sure if you understand my question. If the children are returned to Mr. Casares, what kind of possession and access does the department think the mom should be having once the department's out of the case?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Are you planning on terminating her parental rights?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is the department concerned about the father's pending criminal charges?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay. But you're still wanting to reunify with him and not with Ms. Garcia?
Yes, that's correct.
The housing issue, the endeavor, did you give that information to Mrs. Garcia, or did she find that out on her own?
I gave that to her. She was having trouble contacting them, so I reached out myself and had them reach out to her.
Okay. Okay. I'll pass the witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ibarra, Mr. Casares has not yet had any unsupervised visits, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Does the department agree that it is time to slowly begin increasing his access to his children?
Yes, that's correct.
And are you in agreement with him beginning some unsupervised visitation time?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
What is your recommendation for Mr. Casares's visits going forward?
Going forward, start unsupervised until he is ready to with a monitor return after it has been approved and a reunification staffing, and once the home is ready.
So is the department okay with unsupervised day visits for dad at this time?
Yes,
there
ma'am.
a limit to how long he could have the children unsupervised during the day?
We have not discussed the length of a visit yet.
Would the department also be in agreement for Mr. Caceres to have some visitation supervised by his mother, Ms. Barraza?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the department okay if that visitation schedule for supervised visits with his mother, if that is worked out between he and his mom?
Yes, ma'am.
Will the department be creating a schedule for his unsupervised visits?
Yes, ma'am.
Has Mr. Caceres provided you with an outline of what his plan is for the children once they are returned?
Yes, ma'am, he has.
Do you feel that it is logical and appropriate?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And has Mr. Caceres shared with you that the furniture that is currently at his mother's home for the children, that will be put into his house once the children are returned to him?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Do you feel that that is logical and appropriate?
Yes, ma'am.
Would dad be allowed to have unsupervised visitation at his current home?
I can discuss that with my supervisor.
So the only problem with the home currently is it doesn't have bedroom equipment. It's not set up for overnight visits, correct?
Yes, that's correct. And there's no groceries there.
Okay. Has Mr. Caceres relayed to you that as soon as his children are coming to the home, he will have child appropriate groceries available?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believe he has the financial means to go to HEB today and obtain child appropriate groceries?
Yes, ma'am.
Will dad be allowed to have unsupervised visitation, day visits with his children in his current home?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you missing from Mr. Caceres?
Drug test. Come on, girl.
Go ahead, Ms. Ibarra.
I'm currently not missing anything, just waiting for the pending hair test results.
You've received feedback from his individual therapist?
Yes, ma'am. I received that this morning.
And that is sufficient? Are you missing anything from his current individual therapist?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
Okay. Mr. Caceres has expressed a desire to do some family counseling with his children. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Will the department be assisting him in locating a therapist that can do family therapy for him and his children in San Antonio?
Yes, ma'am.
And does Mr. Caceres live about 10 minutes away from his mom, to your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And she is willing to be a support system and assist him during this transition period, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
All right, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Ms. Ibarra, let's first start with the family group conference we had the other day. First, we had some discussions about additional information we needed from Mr. Caceres. Do you recall that we needed to get feedback from the parenting program and from the BIP program, not only just that he attended, but what they discussed and what progress he actually made in the class?
Yes, ma'am, I remember. I know he reached out. We are still with that.
Okay, so you still need that, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Now, the information that you provided back to Ms. Sims is that you received today all of the notes that you needed. Is that correct?
From individual therapy.
Yes. Did you get them from Ms. Sims?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. Basically, there is one note dated on 4/6 of 2023. It really doesn't say much, but the rest of it goes back to October of last year. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you think you need a little bit more than that to discuss like what exactly they addressed, if anything, like anger management or addressing any alcohol use appropriately or inappropriately?
Yes, ma'am, I can reach out, but I know that she's been very hard to get notes from. I can reach out again and get your notes. I'm not sure if we'll give them, but I will reach out.
Well, you spoke to her, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
What did she tell you?
She told me that she would give me the it was the treatment plan and the, I believe it was the comprehensive exam. Double check notes. Yeah, the comprehensive exam, the treatment.
Okay, which dates back to September of last year. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Did she discuss with you what his progress has been over the last 9 months?
Yes, ma'am, she has.
What did she tell you?
She told me that, he's done really good. He met his goal with communicating better. She says he's a stand-up guy. She has no concerns for him.
How often was she seeing him?
It was weekly, and then it turned into as needed.
Okay, when did it stop being weekly?
At the beginning of March.
Okay. Did she ever tell you what they were actually working on? I know he's a stand-up guy, but did they address any of his ability to handle his anger and address his, a lot of some of the concerns about domestic violence while he and Ms. Garcia were drinking?
She did not go into that, no, ma'am.
So fair to say you have no idea what they worked on in counseling?
I know that they worked on communication, talking about how he feels and how to not react in a negative way. His relationship with Miss Garcia, because I believe that they were both being seen by her. They did talk about that relationship, and she has stated that, they're not together and that he's doing a lot better now that they're not together.
Did she provide any input, since she was apparently seeing both of them, about Ms. Garcia and her progress?
No, ma'am, she did not.
Okay. Have you seen any visits, Ms. Ibarra?
I saw one visit when Children Matter was not able to supervise one of his visits.
And when was that?
That was the end of January. I'm not sure the exact date.
Would it be important that you, if you're going to have a staffing about reunification, it would be important for you to observe a visit?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you observed any visits with mom?
No, I have not.
Would that not also be important for you to get a better handle on how she is with the children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When is her next visit?
Her next visit should be tomorrow.
Who's transporting?
I know Miss Barasa is off this week, so if she's not able to transport, then I will.
Okay. Now, you did send the videos to me regarding mom's partying, for lack of a better term.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
How recent are those videos?
I believe I received one last week. So it would have been last weekend.
Okay. How long have you been monitoring her social media?
I don't have access to her social media. I can't see that. I just received videos from Miss Barasa and Mr. Casares.
Okay. Okay, so all of the stuff that you've got that's negative is coming from dad and his mother.
Yes, it's from their family members who are still friends with her on Facebook and on other social media platforms.
Okay. So a little tainted, fair?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you stated that mom is doing well with her services. She's employed, correct?
Yes, she's employed. That's correct.
Okay. So as far as her services, have you monitored them other than just
Yes.
to get?
Yeah, and I have asked for reasons why she had missed some of her classes with the domestic violence for victims. They will not give me an answer. They won't give me any reasoning because it's a violation to HIPAA. So they won't give me any reason. I just get an attendance. They won't also give me progress notes or anything like that. It has to come from her. I did talk to her about it. She said she overslept and that the classes are going good. As far as therapy goes, she missed two sessions with Miss Esparza. She rescheduled those. There's not much notes to go off of since they just started.
When did they start? When did she start therapy?
She started in February, I believe.
And before that, she was with the same therapist that dad had, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would it help if we were to get an order from the court for Ms. Garcia to do a release of information or for the department to subpoena the records from these therapists and these providers?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Any additional questions for Ms. Ibarra from any party? Ms. Bradley?
Will you be staffing with your supervisors for a transitional monitored return or a regular monitored return?
A transitional return.
All right, thank you. Pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Fisher.
Thank you, Honor. Mr. Mark, do you know, when do you expect the results of the hair follicle test to come back?
The hair follicle usually takes about 2 weeks, but the last alcohol is still, so I'm not sure if it's just that that's taking a while to get the results back. I'll call and make sure I get those results here in the week.
Okay. And did both parents do the hair follicle or just Miss Garcia?
They both did.
Okay. Do you think it'd be wise to have those results before any kind of unsupervised visits happened?
Yes, ma'am.
If Miss Garcia's results come back negative, would the department be agreeable for her to start having unsupervised visits?
No, ma'am.
Even if she's negative for any kind of substances, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
And that's because of the videos that were given to you by the father and the paternal grandmother?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
I'll pass the witness. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sabara, did you address the videos with the mother?
Yes, I did.
Did she admit to drug or alcohol use?
She didn't straight out admit to it, but she said she doesn't have a problem and that she drinks because she's lonely and she uses it as a stress reliever.
Did her response cause you concern?
Yes, ma'am, it did.
Why did it cause you concern?
Because she's using alcohol as a stress relief. So that's a concern that she has not learned anything from any classes.
When did Mr. Casas take his hair test?
4/6/2023.
And when are you anticipating the hair test results should be back?
Should be the end of this week, if not the beginning of next week.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Anyone else?
Just
Ms.
one
Sullivan?
last question. You are still waiting for the ETG on mom, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
When was it taken?
That one was taken on March 16th of 2023.
Okay. When was the last time you checked on the status?
I checked on it yesterday, and not yesterday, I checked on it last week on Thursday, and I checked on it this morning.
And what are they saying about what's going on?
I haven't gotten an answer yet. It's still pending.
Did you, so you checked on it in the computer, but you didn't contact the lab to ask what's going on?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Nothing further.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Fisher, any witnesses from you?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Sims?
Your Honor, may I call AJ Reyna, the CASA volunteer, briefly?
Yes, Mr. Reyna, can I get you to unmute yourself, sir? Ms. Sims, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Reyna, how are you associated with the case?
I am the CASA volunteer that was assigned.
And when did you begin your work on the case?
I was assigned last month.
I'm sorry, there was some background noise. I didn't quite hear you.
On the 16th of March.
March 16th, correct?
That time, yes.
Okay. And have you had a chance to observe any of the parent-child visits?
I was able to observe the child visit with Mr. Casares this past Saturday on your request. And I have visited the home with Ms. Bizarra and the kids a couple of weeks ago.
What did you observe at the visit? How was the visit?
The visit seemed to be going fine. There were no issues. Mr. Casares was involved with the kids. They were involved with him. 4 kids at that age are, you know, it is controlled chaos at best, but he seemed to be handling it just fine. When the kids were playing video games and he would come over and his daughter would bring him something, you know, to eat, you know, toy food, he would grab it and eat it and talk with her and then go back with the boys. So his interaction with all the kids was very parent-like. You know, he did a good job with it as a dad.
And you also have had a chance to individually interview him, correct?
Yes, I have.
Do you have a recommendation regarding his future visitation?
I see no issues with him at this time. I'm hoping to be able to have the same with the mom. I have not done so, but as far as with Mr. Casares, I had no issues with him and what he was talking. He stated several times that he does miss his kids.
Is CASA also in agreement with him beginning unsupervised visits?
At this time, I would see no issues whatsoever with being allowed unsupervised visits.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, anyone else have questions for Mr. Reyna?
I do. Mr. Reyna, have you visited with mom or talked to mom at all?
No, since I had just gotten assigned, I'm hoping to be able to do so. I had talked with mom once over the phone, and I'm hoping to set up a visit with her as well.
Are you going to schedule an in-person visit with her?
Yes, I would like to, yes.
And when did you last speak? When did you speak to mom?
I spoke with mom on the 30th of March.
3:30. Okay. And you're hoping to visit or to see a parent-child visit at some point?
Either go tomorrow or on Tuesday.
I'm sorry?
Trying to go either tomorrow or on Tuesday.
Okay.
Anything else, Ms. Sullivan?
No further questions.
Anyone, Ms. Bradley, question for Mr. Reyna?
Yes, Your Honor. Hello, Mr. Reyna. How long have you been on the case?
Since about last month.
Okay. Were you provided with information such as the affidavit stating reasons for removal or anything like that?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So basically your observations are really limited to just, I guess, an hour or 2 hours. Is that correct?
1 hour with the dad and an in-person talk. I spent an hour yesterday with a visitation this past Saturday, and I spent 2 hours with his grandmother, the patient, and the children a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Did you notice any difference in the behavior of the children between the grandmother and the father?
No, they seem to be very attentive. If grandmother would tell them to stop or to behave, they would. They seem to listen to the grandmother very well. The instances that I saw with the dad this past Saturday was to where if he would tell them to behave, they would. They seem to listen to him, as far as I could tell. Again,
All right. I'm sorry, you cut out?
Again, I was only there for about an hour. So in what I saw, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Fisher.
Just a couple, Your Honor. Mr. Rain, you said that you spoke with Ms. Garcia on March 30th. Is that correct?
I was able to talk to her on the phone. That was the first introduction I had with her.
Okay. And you're either going to go to observe a visit tomorrow or the following Tuesday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you scheduling an in-person interview with her like you did with Mr. Casares?
I am going to. Yes, I would like to.
Okay. Have you asked her about that yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. But she's been cooperative and forthcoming with you so far?
Yes, I was in the initial contact I had with her. I contacted her attorney, and her assistant passed on my number for her to call me, and she did. She just over pretty much right away.
Okay. And so you don't have any first impressions of her except for just that bit of interaction you had with her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'll pass witness. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? If not, Ms. Sims, any additional witnesses?
No additional witnesses, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Hellrung, any witnesses from you?
No witnesses, Your Honor, just a report.
I'll go ahead and hear that then. What is your report?
Okay. Well, I was able to observe the visit between dad and the kids. I also have no concerns. My biggest concern with this case is the skewed slant. I have no idea what mom is doing. I don't know what services are being provided for her. I do know that grandma and dad are filtering as much bad information as they can against mom. I think we need to get out of the mode of playing a, CPS sanctioned custody battle, and we need to address each parent as themselves. I'm hoping to go and observe a visit between mom and the children as soon as I am able. I'm okay moving to unsupervised, but I think we really do need to get some input on the domestic violence and the counseling and the parenting. Dad seems very patient with the children, but I am very concerned that just in November that, both of mom and dad were drinking and he pretty much beat her up. So I have a huge concern with that. There are still pending charges for both parents. If we're going to move toward reunification with dad, we do need to have a plan for mom. We can't just hand the children over and have no arrangements for how these visits are going to go. I think that mom's got an alcohol problem. I don't think that that's something that I think would be in any way. I think it's very observable based on her comments and everything else. I would ask that this court order an evaluation by Lifetime Recovery or someone to address her alcohol problem. It sounds like she's binge drinking. Most of that's not going to come up on an ETH if you're testing on Thursday and she went out drinking on Saturday. So I definitely want to see what's going on. I have concerns that the ETH from literally almost a month ago is still not back. I do understand that the department's or that belongs permanency worker is out of Eagle Pass, but I definitely think that there needs to be a little bit more involvement from them into observing what is going on with these parents and their bond with the children. I do think we can start moving toward reunification with dad, but we cannot not address the issues that brought these children into care. So if he has addressed the domestic violence and he has learned from it and he is addressing all of his parenting issues, I'm great. But just saying he's a stand-up guy from a therapist who refuses to give notes, to me, is just not insufficient. I do want to get more information about mom. I want to know what she's taking as far as victims. I would like to see more from the therapist, Shonda Esparza. I think she's seen her twice. And so I just really think we need to be a lot more diligent about making sure that we know the whole picture and not just a one-sided picture that, is being presented here today. But as far as moving forward to a reunification staffing, I think we should. I think we need to address it, but I think we need to address both parents. We did try to have a family group conference that I think was erroneously scheduled jointly. So we scheduled mom for like the first half hour and she really was not engaged because she was at work. It was just a mess. So we do need to reschedule the family group conference for her. And if there is an ongoing alcohol problem, I think we need to address it, and we need to address whatever issue is leading her into the mess that she's in. Okay. Other than that, I think the children are doing very well. They're happy. They, they're young kids and they have a tendency to bounce all over the place. And the only thing I really do want to make sure of, I'm glad that dad wants to do family therapy, but at a minimum, Matthew needs therapy. I saw during the parent-child visit, and dad was trying to manage all of them. But at one point, he was kicking his younger brother because, his younger brother lost the game for him. That's a problem. I definitely want to make sure we're addressing his aggression and his anger, because it does seem to come out. I think the twins are doing great. Grayson's doing great, but I definitely want to make sure that all of the kiddos are really addressing some of the trauma that brought these kids into care. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Halrung. Mr. Reyna, I already heard testimony from you, and I know you were just appointed to the case. So do you have anything else to add?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
All right. Do any of the attorneys need to address the court before we end? No. All right. Well, based on the testimony the court has heard today, the court is going to continue the current placement for the children with their paternal grandmother. The court at this time finds that their placement is meeting their needs in all aspects, and that continuation of that placement is absolutely in their best interest as we continue to work with providing services and assessing progress of the parents in this case. The court finds that all of their physical, emotional, and developmental needs are being met there presently. And again, and that it's in their best interest to remain there. The court finds that Mr. Cáceres is in compliance with his plan of service, and that Ms. Garcia is in partial compliance with her plan of service. Court finds that there would be a continuing danger to the health and safety of the children if they were to be returned home today. But we've made progress since the beginning of the case, and we are, I think, considering this is an initial permanency hearing, we're, making progress towards reunification. The court does think it's appropriate at this time to authorize the department through Belong to work with the parties to develop a schedule for unsupervised visitation for Mr. Cáceres and the children, and potentially visitation plan that includes some additional periods of visitation supervised by Ms. Barraza herself, if she is willing and consents to assisting in that regard. I think we're moving in the right direction. As far as Ms. Garcia is concerned, I want to say this, that I don't want this court to be involved in a a protracted custody battle either, but there are obvious concerns that have been brought to the attention of the department and then to this court that need to be addressed. And if during the context of a CPS case, in which it's clear that the department has expressed concerns about alcohol use and how that contributes to instances and issues of domestic violence between the parents in this case, that ongoing alcohol use is problematic. And it's not the coping mechanism that this process should be teaching Ms. Garcia to engage in. And so I want an OSAR evaluation conducted in light of the latest information. If necessary, share the videos with the screener, because we need to be open and honest about what's happened, even if Ms. Garcia isn't completely being honest with herself about the level of a problem this may be in her life, and how it is problematic that it is a coping mechanism. So I want that assessed and the services recommended by that assessment completed as well. I will order the department to obtain releases from each of the parents, to obtain copies of any therapy notes or notes from service providers, so that you can gauge what's been covered and what has been utilized, and as far as progress with services in this case. And if necessary, we have a docket on in May that if you need to subpoena the therapist, Ms. Bradley, to obtain Mr. Casares's therapy, or to get the therapist to testify regarding what's specifically been covered, let's do that. I mean, because to me, I think Ms. Hellrung brings up a really legitimate point. We do need to know what's been covered. I do need to know myself more than Mr. Casares is an upstanding guy. I'm sure he is, but that's not helpful for me in terms of making decisions about reunification. And for a therapist to describe the progress and what's been covered in those terms is problematic too. So I think everyone needs to utilize the tools and resources at your disposal to get this, including reaching out to the contracts department with the department, because if he is getting services through a contracted therapist, then they have terms of the contract with the department that they're supposed to provide these things. So utilize all of those tools. So we will be back for our next permanency review on July the 10th at 10. Mr. Casares and Ms. Garcia, it's my duty, as you know, to admonish you at every hearing that the state of Texas gives parents in your situation 1 year to show the court your ability to provide your children with a safe, stable, drug-free, and violence-free home. If you're unable to do that within that span of time, your rights are subject to being restricted, like they are right now, or terminated, which means cut off altogether. Is there anything I missed or that needs clarification before we go as far as the findings and orders of the court? Ms. Bradley.
The Rule 11 agreement to proceed.
Oh, yes, and thank you. So is it the wish of all parties to continue these proceedings via Zoom?
Yes.
No issue.
Yes.
Your Honor, would just add one thing. I would like Belong to observe some of the visits with both parents to get a true assessment. I can visit, but they know when I'm coming. So I just want to make sure that, you know, there is some observation. I also would like to get the notes specifically from Children Matter. I haven't received them yet. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll order Belong, Ms. Ibarra, to observe visits, and this includes some of the unsupervised visits Mr. Casares is now authorized to have with the children. In addition, you know, as I was saying earlier, if I wasn't clear that this includes Children Matter too, any of notes regarding service providers that include Children Matter need to be collected and distributed to all parties in this case. Ms. Sims.
Yes, Your Honor. I know you were authorizing unsupervised visits, but you ordered Belong in the department to hold a staffing to develop a schedule. Can you provide a time period for them to complete that staffing and develop?
That staffing should be held within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well then, thank you all. I will see you back on July the 10th at 10 a.m.